All right, so this one is, well, it's definitely making headlines, and not
Mm.
for good reasons.
Yeah, no kidding.
You guys wanted us to really dig into this whole Jabrill Peppers situation.
Mhm.
And it's, well, it's messy, right? Accusations flying, police reports, and then you've got the whole court of public opinion thing. So we're going to, try to cut through the noise here, go beyond just the headlines and see if we can figure out what this whole thing might tell us about, like power dynamics, consent, all those tricky things that get even trickier when you're talking about someone in the public eye.
And that's what makes this case so fascinating, right? I mean, you've got Jabrill Peppers, star athlete, and this whole situation throws a wrench into these, what do you call them? Those he said, she said cases. Those are already tough to unpack, but then add in the celebrity factor, and it gets really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And we're talking serious accusations here. But before we, get into all that, I think it's important to give everyone a little background on Peppers, especially for folks who might only know him from, football.
Right. So just to set the scene, we're talking about a guy who's been in the NFL for a while now. Drafted back in 2017, played for the Browns, had a stint with the Giants, and now he's a key part of the Patriots defense. And it's not just his on-field performance, he's been seen as a leader off the field too, involved in charities, that kind of thing. So this whole situation, it definitely clashes with the image people have of him.
Yeah, this isn't like some rookie getting caught up in a bad situation. This is a seasoned player, someone with, like you said, a reputation. And suddenly, it's 4 a.m. at his apartment in Braintree. Police get called for a domestic dispute. And that never really ends well, does it?
No, not usually.
And the charges they hit him with are, well, they're serious stuff. We're talking assault, strangulation, which, let me just say, that's incredibly
Yeah,
serious.
absolutely.
And then on top of all that, you've got the drug possession charge.
That's right.
So this is a situation that could derail his entire career if it goes south.
No doubt about it.
So walk us through what supposedly happened that night, because we've got two sides to this story, and they paint very, very different pictures.
Right, and that's where things get really interesting
Yeah.
and really messy.
And before we go any further, just a reminder to everyone listening, we're dealing with allegations here. Peppers is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So our job today is to analyze the situation, not to play judge and jury.
Exactly.
We're just here to look at the facts as they've been reported and see what, if anything, we can learn from all of this.
That's what we do here.
So let's start with his girlfriend's account. According to what she told police, it all went down around 4 a.m. Things were, things were getting intimate, and then Peppers gets a phone call.
Okay.
And according to her, that's when everything changed.
Really?
She claims that after the phone call, he became violent, started putting his hands on her neck, slamming her head against the wall. And then she says he threw her down the stairs.
Wow, that is a very serious accusation.
It is. And if those allegations are true, well, that goes way beyond just a heated argument.
Absolutely. That's a whole other level.
But, and this is a big but, Peppers is telling a completely different story.
Oh.
He denies the assault ever happened. He claims she was intoxicated and, quote-unquote, acting erratically. He even claims that she fell down the stairs on her own, blames it on her being intoxicated.
So two very different versions of events.
Right, but then there's this one detail in Pepper's account that adds another layer to all of this, and it's got people talking.
Okay, I'm listening.
He claims that the whole thing started because he refused to have unprotected sex.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and according to Peppers, that's when she supposedly got enraged.
So let me get this straight. You've got her alleging this violent assault. You've got him claiming she injured herself in a drunken fall. And right at the center of it all is this whole thing about unprotected sex.
Exactly. A classic he said, she said situation. But this isn't some TV drama. This is real life with real consequences.
Sure.
So how do investigators even begin to unravel something like this? That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, how do you even start to figure out what really happened?
That's exactly what we're going to dig into when we come back. So we're back and trying to make sense of all this. It's like trying to put together a puzzle, but half the pieces are missing.
It really is. And, in these he said, she said cases, evidence is everything.
Right, because anyone can make an accusation, but proving it, well, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But what are investigators working with in this particular case?
Well, like always, it starts with the police report that's
Yeah.
going to have all the details, both her accusations and Pepper's side of the story, all laid out.
Right, like a snapshot of what each person claimed happened that night.
Exactly.
And I imagine witness statements, if they have any, will be crucial. Does anyone else see or hear anything that can back up either side of the story?
Exactly. Those other perspectives could really make or break the case. And then, of course, you've got the physical evidence collected at the scene.
Right, and we know there was that whole thing about a bag of white powder found in Pepper's wallet.
Hmm.
He apparently said it was cocaine, which, I mean, that feels like a whole other can of worms.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If that turns out to be cocaine, that's a separate charge right there, adds another layer to everything.
Definitely complicates things.
And it could definitely impact how his lawyers approach his defense.
For sure. And then there's that whole cryptic thing about video evidence. Pepper's lawyers seem to imply they had something that would back up his client's story. That's got to have people wondering, right?
Oh, without a doubt, video footage, it's powerful stuff. It can either completely support what someone's saying or totally dismantle it.
It's like that smoking gun everyone's always looking for.
Exactly.
But even with video, things aren't always so clear-cut, right?
You're right. Video can be open to interpretation, how it's presented, the angle it was filmed from. All those things can influence how people see it.
All about the details.
Exactly.
And speaking of details, there's that hearing coming up on November 22nd.
Right.
And I know I'm not a legal expert or anything, but what's interesting to me is that Peppers doesn't actually have to be there.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So what does that tell us?
Well, it could be nothing major, just a procedural thing. Maybe they're just dealing with scheduling or filing motions.
Okay.
But it could also mean that there are things happening behind the scenes.
Like maybe the prosecution and the defense are already talking, trying to work something out.
Exactly.
Like a plea deal, maybe?
Could be, could be. It's possible they're trying to avoid a long, drawn-out trial.
Right, right.
But again, we don't want to jump to any conclusions.
Exactly. We're just here to look at what we know.
And what we do know is that these he said, she said cases, they're notoriously difficult.
They really are.
Even for the most experienced lawyers and judges. It often boils down to one person's word against another's. And proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, that becomes incredibly challenging.
Yeah, and you can't forget about the power dynamics involved in a situation like this, especially in a relationship where one person is, a well-known athlete.
That's a really important point. You've got issues of control, the fear of retaliation, even just the reluctance to report abuse because you want to protect your partner.
Right, right.
All of those things can make these cases so much more complicated.
It really makes you realize that things aren't always what they seem. It's easy to get caught up in the what-ifs and maybes, especially with a case like this. It's everywhere you look.
Yeah, social media is probably blowing up. Everyone's got a theory.
Exactly. But we got to remember, this isn't just some, headline or a trending topic,
Right.
We're talking about real people's lives here.
Right, and those lives are being turned upside down no matter how this all shakes out.
And that's why that whole idea of due process, it's not just a legal term, It's about making sure things are fair, that everyone gets a real chance to tell their side, celebrity or no celebrity.
Absolutely. Everyone deserves that, and it's on us, the public, to remember that too.
Yeah, easier said than done, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen how fast public opinion can change, especially with these kinds of allegations, and with someone as well-known as Jabrill Peppers.
Oh, yeah. Once that ball starts rolling, it's hard to stop.
Exactly. And the way the media covers this moving forward, that's going to be huge.
For sure. Are they going to focus on just the sensational stuff, or are they going to present both sides fairly?
And are they going to remember he's a person, not just a name on a jersey?
Big questions, and we got to be paying attention to how that all plays out.
Because it's a tough balance, You want to report the news, obviously, but you also don't want to influence things unfairly, especially if this goes to trial.
Exactly. You don't want to prejudice a jury, that's for sure.
So even with everything we've talked about today and all the angles we've looked at, there's still this big old question mark hanging over everything.
And that question mark is basically what really happened.
Exactly. We've got these two totally different stories, and right now it's up to the legal system to figure out the truth.
They've got to sift through all the evidence, decide who's more credible, all of that.
And make a decision based on facts, not just speculation or public pressure.
Exactly, which is how it should be.
So as we kind of wrap things up here, I think this whole situation, it brings up some really important points that go way beyond just this one case.
No doubt. For one, domestic violence is a huge issue.
Absolutely. And it's never okay, no matter who you are or what you do for a living.
And if anyone out there is going through something like that, please reach out for help. There are resources available, and we'll make sure to post some of those on our website.
Absolutely. That's so important. And this case also makes you think about consent and how power dynamics play into all of this, especially when you're talking about a public figure like Peppers.
Right, because it's not always a simple yes or no. There's nuance there, misunderstandings happen, and when you throw alcohol into the mix,
Things can spiral out of control fast.
no doubt about it.
It's a reminder that communication, setting boundaries, and making sure everyone's on the same page about consent, that's crucial.
In any relationship, but especially when you factor in the pressures of fame and public scrutiny.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, as we close out this deep dive, I think it's safe to say we have more questions than answers.
That's often how these things go, right?
But hopefully we've shed some light on just how complex this all is and gotten people thinking about the bigger issues at play.
Yeah, that's what we aim for.
We went beyond the headlines, took a hard look at the evidence, talked about the potential legal stuff, and hopefully this deep dive has given everyone something to think about, something that stays with them even after they hit stop.
Because these kinds of cases, they stay with you.
They do, and they make you examine your own assumptions, your own biases, and realize there's always more to the story than meets the eye.
Exactly. And sometimes just asking the right questions is the most important step.
Couldn't agree more. So, thanks for joining us for another deep dive, everyone.
It's been real.
We'll catch you next time.